We're back. It's the RomaPress podcast. We hope you are all doing very, very well. Before we get into all of the transfer madness happening at the moment, a thank you to our newest patron over at Patreon, Ben Umberger. Ben, thank you for your support. And of course, thank you to all of our other wonderful patrons. If you would like to join the Madhouse, patreon.com/RomaPress, at ISRomaPress on social media, YouTube, like, subscribe. You get tired of hearing all of those things. I know it goes in one ear and out the other when every single podcast or video creator you watch says that. But please, if you could like and subscribe, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right. So, Andy, the 30th of June has come and gone. That magical date is now behind us. So this is when the fun begins. And I say fun in jest, of course. So Roma, with the sale of Tammy Abraham to Besiktas, they were able, for the most part, to fulfill their financial fair play obligations. If you ask to them, because reports have been going around today, that they are going to get a small fine. Actually, it came out yesterday.
4 million.
Yes, that is what Roma is saying. Nobody has that as an exclusive. Roma is relaying that to every single person who asks. They expect to receive a very small fine, but they do not expect any other punitive measures beyond that. So, as we remember when Roma were limited by the number of players they were able to have in the squad for the Europa League some years ago. That is not going to be the case. They expect to receive just a small fine because, for the most part, they did fulfill their financial fair play obligations. Before getting into this shopping list or wish list of what they need, who we think they should get, who we think they should target, can we just do a very, very brief post-mortem on the tenure of Tammy Abraham at Roma?
Yeah.
And it's very odd because if you want to go back in time a few years ago, I cannot forget how elated people were to get this guy. And Roma, if you remember, Andy, they made a tremendous effort in trying to get him.
Yeah.
I mean, this was just a couple of months after Jose Mourinho was appointed.
Just
And
a few days after Edin Dzeko up and left.
yes,
So
yes, when he did that, when he did that, oh, I'm here to stay. Oh, I'm leaving.
yeah.
And this was the first summer of Jose Mourinho, and
Thiago Pinto
he was
closed that.
very hands.
Thiago Pinto closed that deal in like 5 days.
I know.
Went to
Yes.
London, came back with Tammy.
Yes, he went to London, as some of you may know. Well, many of you may not know this. Roma, they have an office in London, in the Mayfair district, actually not too far away from Buckingham Palace, by the way.
Mhm.
So you can kill two birds with one stone. Although if you go
Watch
by
out.
this office
Let's say
building,
that.
it is the most innocuous,
Oh, yeah.
most bland. I don't know, man. Tap on the door and say hello. I think there's only 2 or 3 people that work there full time, but beyond that, very small presence of Roma in London. But nonetheless, they still have that office. So that deal was closed very quickly, as you said. If you want to talk about a guy who was a mixed bag, he is the embodiment
He's the embodiment
of.
because that guy goes from. I mean, the way he is, he's remembered is in equal measure for being the guy who I mean, I guess surprised us all, or was a very positive force in the first season. Was a crucial player for us. When it came down to Roma competing in the Conference League, he was right there, and he helped us to that trophy. A lot of it went through his own sacrifices. I mean, he was so
Yes.
fast in that first season. He was so fast, so smooth, which is unbelievable when you think about it. Talking about Tammy Abraham, remember the first times he was on the pitch, he would do these magical things with his legs, with his feet, and you would be like, "Wow, where is this guy coming from?" I didn't know that
Yes.
he had it in him. Then obviously, he raises that Conference League trophy, and after that, I think, I mean, it basically went, yeah, it crashed and burned. It was meme galore, misses galore, and then an ACL to wrap things up.
Yes.
After the ACL, it was like not have I mean, even having him on the pitch was even more detrimental. Then obviously that loan at Milan, scores against Roma, obviously, and that's about it. So yeah, talk about a mixed bag. That is the definition of a mixed bag.
Well, let's not forget too when he tore his ACL, final match of the season against Spezia,
Yeah,
in a match that had zero,
zero.
zero consequence. It
Yeah,
meant nothing.
nothing.
And of
Absolutely
course,
not.
and of course, the poor guy,
Yeah.
he does his anterior
Crazy,
cruciate
crazy.
ligament, and
Is out
man,
for
there.
is out for like 9 months.
Yes, yes, and he finds it very difficult getting back into the team, and even more difficult finding the back of the net. Somebody in our chat, a couple people alluded to this about obviously the arrival of Paulo Dybala changed the way Tammy had to play. I, I understand that and agree with it to a small extent. Obviously,
Remember,
he was
remember,
far.
remember when people were thinking that him, Zaniolo, and Dybala were going to be a force to be
Yeah, yeah,
reckoned with. And after
yes.
6 months, Zaniolo was gone. Tammy was not scoring, and Dybala was injured.
Well, there's no doubting in that first season he was, in terms of the focal point of the attack. He was the man. It was things are running through him. They're running through, as you said, Nicolo Zaniolo. When Paulo Dybala arrives, obviously the dynamics change. The thing I do find somewhat curious, him and Lorenzo Pellegrini in that 2021-2022 season, um, fantastic, incredible. And then it just completely falls off a cliff for the
For
two of
both of
them
them. Yeah,
ever since
yeah.
then.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there is something in there, or if perhaps, again, that is simply coincidental.
Hmm.
But I just find it interesting that ever since that 2021-2022 season, I mean, Andy, neither of those guys has been even remotely close to the level that they were at in that season. I mean, remember Jose Mourinho in that season? We're talking about Tammy Abraham going for 80 million the next summer. We're talking about Pellegrini. Oh my gosh,
Oh yeah.
are we going to be able to re-sign him? Is he going to
Yeah,
sign
yeah,
the new contract? I'll never forget Jose
yeah,
Mourinho in his first couple of weeks at the club, in his first official matches. He's already being asked
yeah.
about Pellegrini and his new contract, and he's saying, "Oh well, I hope he signs
And
that new
now
deal.
look
He
at
has to
them.
sign it."
Now look at them. Tammy is there. Tammy goes away to Turkey, and his departure is crucial for our financial fair play compliance.
Yes.
And Lorenzo Pellegrini is injured and with only 1 year left on his contract, and nobody knows what's going to happen next. So, yeah, I mean, this is it sort of it shows that a certain era has come to an end. It's inevitable.
Mm,
Like that's why we are looking at this squad, and with this date in mind, the 30th of June. So many names came up in Roma. There was talk even of Brian Cristante moving to Como again. Now there is talk of Stefan El Shirawi not having his place confirmed ahead of next season, even though he had his contract renewed recently. Pellegrini, who again is a big question mark, huge question mark in my opinion.
yes.
There's just clear signs that that Roma are moving on. Whether some like it or not, they're moving on. Some important decisions will be taken this summer. when you look at how Roma handled this financial fair play situation, for a moment it looked like they were going to sell a whole bunch of young players just to avoid
Yes,
selling anyone else, in the form of Evandica, Angelino, who are still here. There was talk of Cherubini, Pagano, Terlizzi, Romano, all going. At the end of the day, I don't think any single one of them has completed the transfer that they were rumored to be in for. Maybe Pagano is going
right.
to move to Bari, but aside from that, Roma managed to do what a lot of fans didn't think they were going to be able to do, which is keep Angelino and Evandica beyond the 30th. Now, whether these two stay or not, I don't know, but it's you know it's been a long time. Well, the Friedkins moved in 2020, so since then I don't really recall many situations where Roma have been forced to sell some of their key players. And, if we talk about Angelino and Evandica, that would have been a first time in the Friedkin's tenure of Roma actually selling guys that belong to the starting lineup just for the sake of financial fair play. This time around, again, another year, consecutive year, it did not happen. Roma were able to meet the parameters by offloading Enzo Lefe, Nicola Zalewski, Samuel Dow, Tammy Abraham, and so on.
Yeah, I don't think that they this is nothing new to them, so I don't think they're ever taken by surprise in this regard. Now we can debate whether or not that is a good thing or not. But again, Roma, the Friedkins, they can only do on the market. Everything has to do with what they bring in. We can go down the laundry list of things that need to change in terms of Roma's revenue. Obviously, the stadium being at the very top of the list as to how things could change for the club. But this is not their first rodeo, so to speak. So I think the Friedkins have done a pretty admirable job each summer. I mean, have we ever found ourselves in a summer where, as you said, we have sold a big name and you have outrage amongst the supporters? Because I can't really think of one. If we want to go down some of the big names that have left, they have all been for reasons other than having to sell because of financial fair play.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Checo, the guy has to leave.
Nemanja
Zaniolo,
Matic. Nemanja Matic.
Matic, yes. So of all of the bigs, so to speak, that have left during the era of Friedkin, most of it, if not all of them, have been down to personal reasons. So I have nothing but respect for the way they have handled this. And as you said, Angelino's still here. I think there's a very good chance he leaves.
Oh yeah, you,
Indica,
you don't think they're gonna
I
give
do.
him a
Yeah.
shot in pre-train preseason? And
Well, I still think the possibility or the temptation of a big plus Valenza for the guy. I mean,
okay,
again,
yeah, yeah, makes sense.
yeah, Roma were gift wrapped Angelino.
I mean,
I mean,
you bought him for 5, you were potentially selling him
five.
for
Yes,
25. So
correct, correct. Now, Indica, I just think he's too crucial to the team. I think Gasparini would be pissed if that guy left. So I don't think that is going to happen. But we can get into some of the other names that are being rumored as being close. But for you, what is the area that is most needed to upgrade? Is it the flanks?
oh yeah, it has to be. I mean,
Yeah,
at the end of
yeah.
the day, that's where the bulk of Gasparini's work, is focused on. That's where he is cooking his potion. That is where it all
Oh
begins.
gosh.
Those are the first steps in his magic recipe. The flanks, you have to have guys who are not only fast, they're not only strong, but they're scoring, they have a propensity to move towards the opponent's goal. I mean, it's about players who, like Gozens, like Kolasinac in recent years, are not afraid to push, and whose role is not just staying on the wing and crossing the ball. It's basically doing everything. I mean, I told you this the last time out. It's basically what Kolarov did for Roma in his best year. That's Kolarov back then was doing everything, and
Yes.
wingers and fullbacks in Gasparini's system, That's it. Then you have to have a midfielder who's also not afraid to score the ball, because God knows Roma need one. If you look at some of the misses that Roma have had from midfielders this season, Kone, the goals he could have scored, Tommaso Baldanzi, the goals he could have scored, Nicolo Pisilli, the goals he could have scored, so many opportunities, and yet I think the midfielder with most goals was probably Paredes with penalties. So
Yes.
that's no good, and that has to change, because we know that is also something that Gasperini likes very much. It's guys that get on the score sheet, not necessarily attackers.
No, that's true. How you made it through that entire thing, saying potion twice and not mentioning a certain Danish professor, is astonishing to me. But again, we have to put a moratorium on any and all Jan's Bangs ball references, because between
He's no longer
uh,
employed in football, so I don't.
no, he's not. But still, yeah. In fact, he doesn't work. Yeah, he doesn't work in football whatsoever. However, I could see him coming out of retirement at the prospect of, uh, you know, what can my potion do with IS Roma? What I did it with this random city, a B side for all intents and purposes in Bergamo. Wonder what I could do with this team in the Italian capital. I don't want to go there. That's not even mentioning. I mean, he could easily sue us at this point. I mean, 3 to 4 dozen different episodes where we're making fun of him or mentioning him at this point. But again, I applaud you for being able to get through that last phrase without even mentioning his name. One name that Roma have been linked with seemingly since the beginning of the summer. I mean, if you want to talk about like the day one target, it's Wesley of Flamengo, and this is one of those deals because there has been talk over the previous 48 hours about how Everton would acquire him and then loan him to Roma. This is one of those things where I said it on the many Everton podcasts I went on when the Friedkin Group officially acquired Everton. And I was asked every single time, are AS Roma supporters worried about the Friedkin Group making Everton a priority over Roma? And each time I said no, because I think Roma will be able to benefit with the vastly superior financial resources that they are going to earn from Everton than what they're able to get in Serie A with Roma. And I think this is like this is exhibit A. This is it. I don't know, Andy, if we're going to see something how we have, Udinese and Watford, where they're basically trading
Yeah,
garbage
yeah,
back and
true,
forth
true. Yeah,
summer.
Jesus, okay.
I don't think we're going to see that.
I
I
want to
don't
be
think
a
we're
little
going to
bit
see that
more
at all.
ambitious than I would
Yeah,
hope.
right. I obviously they are going to do some things. There's going to be some sort of cohesion between the two clubs. We see them playing a summer friendly later this month, or is it August? Where they, I think it's July.
This is
So
okay.
yeah, so there is going to be some sort of understanding between the two clubs. And again, it's a Premier League side. It's a very renowned Premier League side who, again, are going to have pockets, Andy, that Roma, in their wildest dreams, could never attain. It's something that you have to take advantage of. And again, I think the Friedkins owning Everton is only going to benefit Roma. I in no way think that they're going to shift resources or that their focus is going to be on Everton more so than Roma. I think Roma will only benefit.
So what? So
And
Wesley
again,
is the first step in this synergy between the two clubs for years to
well,
come.
yeah, I mean, we were just talking about Roman financial fair play, and this is an operation that could be upwards of 30 million
Yeah,
euros. So you tell
absolutely,
me.
absolutely.
So, and if you want to talk about like the profile for the football of Gian Piero Gasperini, this guy is that. He is that and more. Again, I'm going to refrain from any Bangsbo jokes or references tied to him, but I mean, the way he plays his game, it fits perfectly. And again, you just alluded to it prior to this. I mean, this is where you have to give Gasperini everything he asks for.
Yeah,
He may ask for an
exactly. The flanks have to be like the guy in the Gasparini asks for that guy, you get that guy. Like it
yes,
cannot be, like you cannot mess around here because it's just too important. It's like this is why you got him because this is what he does. You have to give him the players that he believes in. Um, Even I don't care if it's a if it's a 17-year-old from Uzbekistan or Kyrgyzstan. He likes him, get him, and he's gonna turn him into, I don't know, Russell Crowe in Gladiator. I mean, we have to trust the process, John. I know you hate that phrase, but we have to trust the
mm,
process. This thing with Everton is so funny to me. I think a lot of people sort of are afraid when these news break out. When this news broke out, a lot of people are like, "Is that legal? Like, can they do that? Where will we get banned? Will we get arrested by UEFA?"
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
arrest, yeah,
I mean, listen, it was always going, I think, to come to this. This is the way that clubs will have to survive. Like a club like Roma
yes,
wants to be competitive, they have to survive. It's I mean, this is the situation that we've been driven into, and we have to somehow get out of it. Everton, probably just off of TV rights, they earn more than Roma earned from TV rights in the last decade. So
yes,
uh, that's what you're looking into in a big brother like Everton.
yeah, and listen, two things can be true at once where you kind of have a bit of an inferiority complex, kind of like what you said there, sort of being the little brother. But again, there's dynamics that no matter how much we want to complain about it, there's certain financial dynamics that just can't happen in this country when compared to a club in the UK playing in the Premier League. No matter what you feel about which club is better, more successful, more ambitious, whatever your argument is, this is the fact of the matter that Everton have financial resource that Roma will never, at least for foreseeable future, will be able to attain. So you have to take advantage of it. Um, Other guys that they've been linked with, I mean, we're not going to go down the entire list because again, it's the transfer market. There's 25 new names every single day, and it really is not worth getting into each of them individually. I I will say though, as far as some of the potential outgoing names, Paredes,
That's a
we're
very
still
funny
getting
situation. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
understand. I don't know what's going on. I'm so tired of these things. Like this is what I hate. Like like if people say, "Oh, but the transfer market is exciting." Yeah, sometimes it's exciting.
oh,
You
it
have funny
sucks.
developments, but then you have these sagas that are just endless. They go on forever, and you are exhausted by the time you're like, please take him away, do anything,
Yes.
but just I don't want to see that name, I don't want to see that team's name, I don't want anything to do with this situation. And yet every year there's always something like this, like something that gets dragged out beyond belief. And then, first of all, every media outlet seems to, at first they all seem to know what's going to happen. Everybody's like, oh, at the 30th of June, Boca Juniors will activate Leandro Paredes' release clause because the player has already agreed to a contract with Boca. So the only thing to do is for them is to pay 3.5 million, which, by the way, was the release clause that was in the gentleman's agreement with Boca to facilitate the guy's transfer, right? Like that's what Roma did. They extended his contract, included a release clause that was exclusively valid for Boca Juniors. Guess what happens? Boca don't pay the release clause. It's
Yeah.
past June 30th. It's the 3rd of July as we are recording this. And Boca will have to renegotiate a fee with Roma. What's the point? I don't know. The player's still here. Preseason starts in 10 days from now. So I don't know who should get their shit together, but just if you want to leave the club, leave. That's it. Don't drag this out, please.
Yeah, it is annoying to see this thing still lingering on again, especially considering the guy was giving interviews about going back to Boca since last November. So for us to be here some 10 months later, still having to entertain this entire saga, extremely annoying. Extremely annoying. Some of the other guys that appear to be at least on their way out, King Eldor, who again, mixed bag. What can you? I'm going to hold him in a much higher regard because of this last season, Andy. My my opinion of that guy shifted so
Yeah,
much
an absolute
because
hero.
of this past season.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Hmm.
um, doesn't complain, doesn't say a thing about not starting, but man, was he a force off the bench. And I don't think I ever, prior to right now, ever foresaw a point where I thought, oh, losing Shomurodov is actually going to be a bitter pill to swallow, so to speak, because just of how effective he was this past season off the bench. I mean, that was productivity from the substitutes that we are not used to at Roma, particularly from a striker. And to have somebody finally do that and then have to say goodbye to him, it is difficult to some degree to accept because you're going to have to replace him. I mean, they're going to have to get a backup striker to work behind Dovbik. So I am a bit sad to see him go, just because again, this past season it was such an outlier when compared to his previous ones. He was, I mean, able to make such a big impact. Um, Is there anybody else from your mind that needs to perhaps be given another chance or at least another look? Everybody keeps talking about Kumbula. There were a few people shouting for Mario Hermoso. That's not going to happen. Roma, they will try to cash in on that guy immediately. But his wages, they are large. So getting rid of that is going to be difficult. Kumbula, where do you come out on him? I have a whole conversation with his agent that he wanted me to say on here, but I'm not going to say it because it
Boy.
basically it is level of propaganda that I think even North Korea would be kind of like, maybe that's a bit much, man. So I'm not going to say really any of this beyond the fact that he does his preference is to first see what Gasparini has to say and take his chances with him and see what happens because his agent is adamant that he could be a big contributor, and he put this in
Hmm.
caps, perhaps even a first choice regularly
Mm.
under Gasparini.
Hmm.
Um,
Hey, who knows?
maybe.
Maybe. Hey, I mean, he thrived under Ivan Juric, who is
Y-
Gasperini's apostle. So this is
uh,
who we're talking about. Kumbula. After this kind of season he's had with Espanyol, I'm sure that he's going to have 100% confidence that he can do something in preseason. Whether that
sure.
will be enough to stay at Roma and potentially start is a whole other thing. But definitely, I think this is not a player that Roma will give out right away. I think he will receive some kind of opportunity. Just because, I mean, listen, we need another defender. Uh, there's a lot of areas that we need to focus on, and perhaps we need to save up. Perhaps we need to
Yes.
make some sacrifices and decide, okay, listen, we have an in-house solution. Let's make this happen. Kumbula was really impressive with Espanyol. I don't see why Gasperini would just fire him from the squad as soon as preseason starts. I don't see that happening, to be honest.
No, I don't either. This guy somehow, for those of you who may feel as if he has been at Roma for nearly a decade now. He still has 2 years left on his contract with
Yeah,
the
didn't he,
club.
because didn't he join 2021, 20 or 21?
Yes. Yes. And I will never forget that one because I put out an interview with his agent who said Roma haven't contacted us. There hasn't been any interest from the Giallorossi. And then literally 2 hours later, the deal
Right.
was completed.
Right.
I will never forget that one ever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Gianni Vitali,
And he
fantastic
was
agent.
that
So
was that was when Guido Fienga was running
yes,
our
yes, that
transfer. Yeah,
was
yeah, the summer of 2020. And when he came, Kumbula was one of the best prospects in the league. So it
he
really felt
was.
like we had won the lottery. Didn't happen for him. But again, who knows? When you go out on loan and you play with this, with the kind of consistency that Kumbula played with in La Liga after that ACL and that brutal loan at Sassuolo, your confidence is bound to go through the roof. So I don't know. I think Gasperini may be open to that solution.
He's still 25 years old. I mean, he seems like one of those guys that is 30 or 31 because of how much he has been at the forefront of our minds, how long it seems like we have seen him play. Still only 25. I would give him a shot. As you said, if you can make him a viable part of the rotation, he doesn't even have to start. He doesn't have to start. Let's be serious. If he could be an alternate, I mean, the first choice of central defender off the bench. I mean, you could do far worse than him. So it has always seemed like, though, the pressure and the expectation of Roma has always been the thing that has been difficult for him. Physically, he's been all over the place. We saw him. Well, I say we. You have to be especially sick to have watched him at Sassuolo. I mean, he was a nightmare at Sassuolo. A nightmare.
Single-handedly sent them to Serie B,
Yeah.
which I will be forever grateful for, though it didn't last too long.
No, it didn't last too long, but to see him bounce back this last season, there is something there, and it's the thing that we all saw when he was at Verona. All right, let's leave it there. We'll be back again in a few days. Plenty of transfer stuff that is happening every single day. So, what happens over the next week, we will, of course, break down, and we will see what happens in the coming days. So, until next time, everyone, a presto.
A presto.